On behalf of National Institute of Design and IES University, I welcome all who are attending this webinar. My name is Professor Dhiraj Kumar. I am heading National Institute of Design, Madhya Pradesh. I would like to begin with thanking Chancellor Saab B.S. Yadav ji for this wonderful initiative to reach out to the students and keep them connected with education. And his team for creating this wonderful interface. I was told by Kishore just now that this has been happening since last almost more than a month and all. So there had been the team behind it who has been untiringly working to enrich the student even in such a difficult time. A brief, I think most of us know about National Institute of Design. However, design education began immediately after the conceptualization of the design education began after the independence. At that point of time, the government of India was looking at conceptualizing that in the educational scenario, how do we progress, how do we proceed so that it can contribute immensely in the nation building. So at that point of time, initially they conceptualized, it was conceptualized to start with medical and engineering institutions, because that is something which were the need of the hour, because so the conceptualization of AIIMS and IITs happened at around that time. 5 years after that, so this was around roughly 1960s, the whole need for managers emerged. So that's when the conceptualization of IIMs was kind of perceived and planned. And immediately after that, when there were managers being present in the country, at that point of time, government envisaged that now we should have our own story, we should have our own design products. So the conceptualization of NID happened at that point of time. So there was a very rigorous exercise in kind of determining the ethos. So the initial team was trained by the best of people in the world, and they were given the best of exposure to understand how design operates in the world scenario and how it is contributing to the industrial development. So with all those learning and background, the setting of NID began, and initially the focus was a lot on craft and skill building. But as NID gradually progressed, the whole focus started moving towards application of design in a little more wider spectrum. So today's our topic is going to be role of design in post-COVID scenario. Because I think as we can see that the COVID-19 has kind of disrupted our lives in a very different scale, which was totally unimaginable. So before I formally begin the session, I really would like to express my heartfelt gratitude to all the essential service personnel. I think they have kind of sacrificed their personal life. They have put aside their own safety, and they are marching ahead to keep this country and this world safe for all of us so that we can live and breathe safely and healthily. Their contribution is something which is absolutely immeasurable. So we should actually, I think, remember this. And whenever we meet in future, any of these people who are in the front line dealing with this whole scenario right now, I think we should always remember them, have a deepest gratitude for them. So my heartfelt blessings and wishes for them to stay strong and healthy. So I really would like all the members present to kind of give them 3 claps. I think that is the least we can do on a digital platform. Thank you. So if we look at today's economy, just before pre-COVID, what happened, how we were, the whole economy was almost on a bubble. Everywhere we were seeing that it was absolutely overheated. Uh, Things were happening on a speed and a scale, I think, which sometimes used to give us very little time to reflect and understand that how we really can plan things and execute. So I think that is something very important. And for us to understand that that scenario at times was very difficult for all of us to handle. If you look at a typical day in any average person's life, how it used to be, or a typical lifestyle, if we say, I think a person will wake up and then he will try to fall into the rut of the day. He will immediately get ready, drop his kids, and then go to his office, attend to the official work and everything. And then evening again, he's rushing back to his home. And then evening, he may have to attend some sort of social commitment, comes back home, either in the social gathering or in home, they will eat their food and then maybe sit in front of the television, watch some, programs, and then they will sleep. So this used to happen round the year, round the clock, round the time. So people never had time for anything which probably they would have wanted to do. So I think that is one of the important things. So suddenly, with the COVID, what has happened is this all has changed suddenly. Initially, when I was speaking to a lot of people around me whom I have known for many years through their, professional engagements and all that, I started, getting a signal which was very interesting and alarming, that most of the people didn't know what to do with so much of time. So they could not, set initial, I think first week, most of the people were going through that sort of scenario. So then they started kind of introspecting and retrospecting their own lives. They started sorting out things, and people started focusing on something which they started realizing there was a far greater value in that. Second thing, on the other hand, if you look at the frontline workers, they were flooded with a lot of work and all that. And earlier, we never used to realize the importance of their presence in our life. But with this, we realized that I think they were the walking gods on the earth. And they were the people who always had been kind of supporting us and all that. So that was another paradigm that kind of we all witnessed, and we all came to a kind of common understanding. So in this whole gambit, if we look at in this whole scenario, how do we see design? Since I think most of the people will have some background on design who are listening, who are part of this webinar and all that. But just to quickly reintroduce what design is. Design as a terminology, or as a, you can say, field, or as a vocation, is only 100 years old. Earlier, there was nothing like design. The origin is only 100-year-old. This all happened post Industrial Revolution. And the world started realizing the importance of design, because design was something which was very personal to everyone. The way I perceive design, or the way my friend perceives or my family member perceives design or interacts with design. So there was a whole lot which was happening in design. So initially people found it to be very casual. So that's why, many years passed by, especially in a country like India, where people didn't take design as a serious career. But later on, when most of the management schools realized the importance of design, they started, kind of using the flavor of design to understand that how a lot of critical problems can be solved. So that's when design came in limelight in terms of scale. So design thinking as a formal discipline was introduced at that point of time. So when we try to understand design, because there is not a single definition which kind of does justice to what design is, but from my years of experience, what I can share is that design is to do with or about people. How do we create things, products, services for the people so that people's life can become better, people can start interacting with their surroundings and their work scenario, their homes in a better manner. So that's where whole design role comes in. And design is approached in a very systematic manner. You kind of analyze the situation and then you try to address the design according to what your findings and whatever key indicators that you get from those analysis and all that. So if we try to look at design from quickly 2-3 examples, every organization, every business organization has some sort of philosophy in place. For example, iconic brands, if we look at, see, for example, I think everyone is familiar with Honda. Honda is a very premium brand in terms of perception and all that. The Honda defines itself as man maximum and machine minimum. So, whenever they approach to design a new car or a new vehicle, they try to put a person first. They never design machine first and then try to place a person in that. They don't do that. They first put a person in a car and then try to design things around it so that person is absolutely comfortable and machine doesn't overpower the person's presence. So this is how generally Honda approaches towards product development and all that. So, and if you look at most of their products and all that, most of their cars, they feel very light. You don't hardly feel the sound of engine and all that. The whole ergonomics or the styling of the car is quite simplistic. You don't find it very edgy or over the top. Second, if we take a case which is extremely opposite to it, which is of Volkswagen, so they have a brand personality attribute which they call impeccable machine performance. So if you drive a Volkswagen car, you feel that the grr of the engine, the power of the engine and all that. So that is the attribute they celebrate. They feel that masculine aspect and all that is the thing that they really want their cars to be known for. And if you go back a little bit, in the history of the Volkswagen and all that, it comes from a country which has a very good, grip on precision and all that. So that preciseness of mechanics and everything that you experience in that particular car also. One last case in this I would want to discuss is about, which we all are in love with, that is Apple. So when Apple kind of started conceptualizing their whole brand and its attributes and how it should be, kind of connecting with the people and all that, so they felt we want to make a product which is not catering to one particular age group or one particular segment. They wanted it for almost everyone. Everyone should enjoy. And it should not be something which is a casual product or something which is only a serious product, or business people only should like it, or only kids should like it. They wanted to kind of seamlessly oscillate between these extremes, extreme ends of the society. So their brand performance or the brand attribute, they decided that it is going to be playful and mindful. So if you look at most of the Apple product, you will find them quite playful and they are quite mindful also. You don't feel the technology behind it is so heavy that it kind of because sometimes when you are interacting with any electronic gadget, the problem is that you see a lot of technology overpowering you. So these are the three cases that I just wanted to set as an kind of orientation for about the understanding of the design. And then a couple of quotations I would want to discuss from the point of view of certain designers. Salvador Dali, who is one of the celebrated artists, and everybody reveres him for his out-of-the-box paintings and all that, he says, have no fear of perfection. You will never reach it. So, his idea of design is that you should not try to perfect it. You should try to kind of let it happen in a very natural process and all that, because when you're trying to do something, perfect and all that, then you miss out a lot of journey part of that development. So this is what Salvador Dali always believed in. There is an author, famous author, Elena Wheeler. She talks about design is intelligence made visible. This is quite interesting because, people, whenever they encounter any problem or any situation, they try to, look at what kind of solution we should have for it. So, when you encounter a good product, for example, when we look at, say, like Apple products and all that, we find them extremely intelligent because they literally are very easy to use, easy to go through, easy to navigate and all that. So I think, for example, today also this interface is quite easy. We don't need to go through a huge training to, conduct these series and all that, these web series and all. So I think it is about intelligence being made visible through design intervention. So that is another dimension. Mayo Angelou, a famous author, poet, and civil rights activist, says that you can't use up creativity. The more you use, the more you have. So that is another part of it. It's a process, it's a lifestyle where I think people are supposed to do it regularly, and more they do it, they learn more. So it is very iterative, very interactive, and it is something which you live and breathe. So that is another very interesting thing. But there is one quotation which, as a NID Madhya Pradesh Center, we believe in. So I really would want to share that also, because initially when I was trusted to start this center, I felt that I think we should have some philosophy. So initially we were trying to have some discussion to coin our own philosophy, but then we found this very interesting quote by Robert L. Peters, who's a designer and author. So he says, design creates culture. So if you look at design, a product, wherever it goes in any society or in a company or in a individual person's space, I think it creates some sort of bonding with that space. So people interact, people respond to it. So that is very interesting, that design creates cultures, and culture shapes values. When you create any culture, the values, because people interact with that, how people respond to it, some people would want to keep it very carefully, some people for example, the history of most of these personal gadgets like phone, iPads and all that is 20-25 years old, but now they are so inseparable. They have kind of created a culture of our lifestyles and all that. So design creates culture, and culture shapes value. So we have now a lot of value proposition being built around these products and all, and value determines the future. So the use of these things have kind of given us a way to peep into the future, that this is how we really want the future to be. So I think that is another important quotation that I really would want to talk about here. So then I come to the next section where we are looking at what COVID has actually done, what kind of things have happened, and how possibly it is going to impact the future, and then we will come to the design. See, any impact, any act which happens on this scale, there are always certain positive sides and certain negative sides. So I think I'll quickly list down one or two things. economic slowdown is going to happen. That is something which everyone knows. Now there is going to be a whole lot of crashing of the economies, and that too on a very global scale. Manufacturing and the supply chain, the way it used to operate earlier, disturbed, and how it is going to be after COVID, there are a lot of speculations on that. Reverse migration, earlier, pre-COVID, we all were talking about that. How do we deal with this urban, population and all the migratory population? How do we kind of do the rehabilitation? There were departments who were dealing with it. Now the problem is totally different. Now, suddenly you can see that that kind of department has become jobless in many ways. They don't have any agenda to look at. So now they are looking at this reverse migration, and nobody is sure that whether people will come back. Another very important factor is, this global demand. When we were looking at most of the, production and products being exported, I think there was a lot of pull factor from the global demand, and India was one of the preferred destination for manufacturing and all that. So now suddenly that seems to kind of be a different scenario where it will cease to exist. Consumerism, which was on its pinnacle, I think we will see a steep fall in that. Now people will, because suddenly people will have a lot of fear because of this. So I think people will stop spending the way they were spending earlier. The kind of lifestyle they used to have, that they will go out for shopping, eating and all that. I think we will see suddenly that will change. A lot of students, they used to go abroad for studies and all that. And in current scenario, when we are looking at the kind of treatment they are going or the kind of situation they're facing, that is very difficult. So I think that seems to be another area which is going to happen. I think a lot of people will be discouraged to look at that as the best destination. A lot of people will fear jobs and all that. So that is another thing that we are anticipating. These are kind of negative factors if we view it from one angle. Certain positive things, before even we kind of migrate to a normal lifestyle or a normal scenario, we all have become a little more human. I think we have started becoming caring and all that. We care for people. A lot of people, I think earlier people in big cities don't even used to know their neighbors and all that. Now, I think there is a very renewed bonding and all that people know. And I think people started valuing the kind of family as an institution, community as an institution, society as an institution. That's why I think a lot of people are not stepping out of the home, because it's not only about their own safety, but it is about the safety of the others also. So I think this whole aspect of becoming a little more human is another very important impact and a resultant. One of the biggest thing which I think earliest we used to feel that how or when we will be able to do is this environmental factor. The clean air, clean water in our rivers, all those kind of issues, deforestation. Suddenly, I think within 1 month, we could see that Earth started reviving itself. So that is another positive side to it. And we can see its impact on a lot of industries who were developing a lot of products only to solve that sort of problem. So I think that is one scenario. Sanitization or the health and hygiene as a habit, I think everyone is learning in a very different manner. So that is another very important dimension to it. So we should look at now that also, that post-COVID, that is going to be another very big area for all of us to intervene. And time. I think since now people have spent time, so at least this generation and the next generation will value that. The kind of freedom they had to choose a lot of online activities, a lot of in-home activities. So people, I'm sure, are enjoying that sort of freedom and that sort of bonding also. So I think that is going to impact the future in a very positive manner in the coming time. The whole definition of community is getting completely redefined. Now, for example, I am becoming inducted to the IES community. So that sort of bonding. So now, because of this digital media, we will see that it's very easy to collaborate with people sitting on the other side of the world. So I think the community is going to become very truly global in many ways. A lot of social etiquettes, which earlier most of us used to take for granted, I think they will come in place, and there will be shared responsibility on that also. We all will start becoming, for example, some time back, the normal was that people can smoke anywhere they want to. But now we see very few people smoking in public areas because the government took decision to ban it. Similarly, now we can see that spitting will be banned. The walls of most of our government offices will not be the same. They will look very different, clean, and all that. So, social distancing earlier, the kind of rush people used to have. So that is another important aspect. Another area that I really see is going to be very interesting opportunity is this contactless dining, because somewhere people will not suddenly say that we will stop dining outside. But now I think they would look at a system where people will see live cooking of their food, and then live delivery, and then maybe it is getting laid in a particular manner where people are wearing gloves and all that. So I think they may have a small tab on their TV or on their table where they will see the whole process of it, and they will gain a lot of confidence. Yes, it has been cooked in a proper manner. Shopping as an experience is going to change completely. I think shopping spaces will change. I personally feel many activities will start happening with certain restrictions or by appointment only. So maybe that is another scenario. I think travel is going to be totally brought down because most of the organizations have realized that a lot can be resolved and delivered through this online mode. So I think we will have a lot of online, development of things, especially augmented reality and virtual reality introduction to most of our day-to-day lifestyles will happen. Most of these meetings will have some sort of augmented reality and all that also. And in that, I really see that a lot of virtual touring will start happening. People will start visit. For example, now we have kind of conducted a couple of sessions with a few museums for our students, where they can virtually visit them, because most of the museums have given their virtual tour free for the people during this time. So maybe that is going to continue. Now people will not travel to another country to visit a museum or a particular site for an educational tour purpose. So maybe I think that's where one more area we are looking at. See, digitally, I see a whole lot of possibility that businesses will start transforming completely. So digital business transformation or technology-enabled interfaces will be developed. So online, what we see today is very rudimentary or very, you can say, nascent in many ways. But now I think most of the technology institutes will start looking at this interface and see, when we look at a typical education versus a kind of a digital education, people don't feel very comfortable. But now there will be a serious understanding of that what one needs to create digitally so that people are comfortable. from the teacher's point of view as well as from the student's point of view. So I think there are going to be a lot of technology development in that area. So now we'll pick quickly a couple of sectors that how perceptually they will change. For example, industry as a industrial sector. See, overall, there is going to be initial slump that I could foresee. And then later on, there is going to be a whole lot of alternate renewable fuel based technology development will happen, because now we will look at a lot of cleaner energy based products and all that. So that is one area which I see a whole lot of possibility for designers. So designers should look at that scenario and how, for example, electric cars, hybrid cars, and hydrogen fuel cars and all that. That is going to be another paradigm where most of the designers will start working. Healthcare, definitely. Now we have seen that even the most developed economies in the world, we have seen that healthcare has kind of crashed in a scenario like this for those countries also. So there will be a lot of distributed development for healthcare facility, not like concentrated to the hospitals. So, but I think this is a very interesting paradigm also, because when we look at one side, we see that the healthcare sector will have a lot of greener pastures in terms of possibilities and all that. But on the other side, one thing is very alarming and you can say shocking also, that a lot of those tests and prescriptions which were happening on mad scale earlier, they have all stopped to exist. Multiple tests, full body checkup and all that. Now nobody is doing it. So I think people are getting to understand that most of those kind of prescriptions by these private hospitals and all that at times were not required. What you require is basically a healthy lifestyle. So, there is going to be a whole lot of preventive medicine kind of preventive lifestyle building as a scenario within the healthcare, where people will be taught to have a lifestyle which really can prevent their, medical ailments and all that. Pharmaceutical is going to be another area, but now there will be a strong inclusion or a very good entry of the other medicinal fields like Ayurveda and homeopathy and all that, because the whole philosophy of those medicinal fields is very different. They look at wellness not as curing, whereas if you look at English medicine, they look at curing a particular ailment. So for certain critical care and surgeries and all that, people will still have a dependency on that, but I think there will be a large migration towards these alternative fields and all that. Another very big possibilities will be in the area of biotechnology. I think that is something which we as a race will need to understand, that how the nature has kind of created a system to develop, vivid varieties of species of, things, and they don't disturb or they don't leave a carbon footprint on, when they are not of any utility and all that. So I think biotechnology is something which is basing itself to understand, and they try to mimic the natural principles and all. So there will be a lot of development in that area. So definitely, I think that is going to be one of the interesting areas. So here, one of the another big possibility is going to be designers. Designers and design is going to play a very big role, because now it is not going to be only about the product, but how it sits into a particular scenario also. So that's where designers play a role. If we look at, for example, in healthcare and pharma and all that, I think nobody would really want to imagine a scenario where everyone is wearing a green mask in the whole country. So I think that's, so there is going to be a whole lot of personalization and all that. People would want to be identifiable. So there will be a whole lot of intervention from And this is a very small example, but there are going to be a lot of intervention where designers will try to kind of customize these solutions, which are going to become mandatory as our lifestyle habits in the coming time. Second biggest sector that I want to focus on right now is, I think, communication sector. So I think we will see a whole lot of shift in that. Earlier, it was technology as a via media to kind of connect people, but now technology in communication sector is going to be kind of create an alternate scenario where people really can use technology to enhance their communication. And communication can be seen in very wide format, where we are looking at newspapers to print media communication to digital media to augmented reality and all that. So I think there will be a good decline in the print media, and I can see the way the digital newspapers we see today, they will change completely. So you will not have a scenario where a paper will be published once, but it will be published or updated on a hourly basis. So there is going to be something where you will see a newspaper, digital newspaper, which will be having a whole lot of section, which will be updated regularly. So it will become a kind of a alternate television kind of scenario where there will be a whole lot of dynamic content which will happen in the communication. And a application like Arogya Setu, which government has kind of trying to push to make it mandatory for almost everyone, so that everyone can trace that whether how close or what is the proximity of a infected person from them. So similar kind of technologies will be made available to the people, where a whole lot of tracking of their activities will happen. So one can look at communication from that point of view also. I think pre-COVID, we always used to feel that we are a global economy, and we are totally interconnected and all that. But truly, I feel that post-COVID, we have become more interconnected. The kind of connectivity we are having with the people living on the other side of the world, I think that is something which has happened on a very different scale now. So whether it is through webinars, whether through any other chat media and all that, so that is that is also another interesting thing. And in communication, the travel from home virtually through AR, VR will happen. So people will start having their houses which will be AR and VR enabled and all that. Textile and apparel sector again is going to see a huge transition. I think initially there will be a slump, but I think later on it will become a very green zone for the designers and all that. I think there will be a whole lot of antimicrobial and anti-infection and disinfectant kind of fabrics and all that. So they will come into use and all. So if you're wearing a mask, it should not allow. It should kind of precondition things in a particular manner. So I think we will have a lot of safety factor at the scientific development of the fabric and the fiber level, which will happen. So now design will not be only cosmetic in most of these post-COVID scenario application. That will exist as one of these scenario, but that will be a minor scenario. But I think a whole lot of high-end work will happen where there will be a lot of technology and development of the base material and product will happen in that. I think a whole lot of protective wears for the people, individuals, for the safety workers and everything. I think there will be a whole lot of design intervention required in that, because right now they're very clinical in nature. So nothing wrong in that, but when we are looking at its variability at a very economic scale, then I think this definitely requires some sort of design intervention. So I see whole lot of possibility in that also. Education, we have already seen, it has already started changing and all that. But this is something which is more adaptive. Whatever near best possible thing was available, we have all migrated onto that. But I think technology is in education sector is yet to play a very big role. Some bit we have seen some time back, some 10 years back, there was a revolution when we were talking about a whole lot of digital education at school level. So, smart classrooms and all that. So what happened, back-end content was developed. And then that was being made available at a click by the teacher. They can create a lot of learning scenarios for the student. But I think it will happen for a lot of technical and the professional education in the coming time, where a whole lot of technological intervention with the help of augmented reality and everything, scenario building, that is something which I foresee is going to be another very important area. People will start having, tinkering labs, which are going to be operating from their home also. So you would not rely on a tinker lab kind of thing situation, only situated in a college or a factory. But I think it will happen in your home also. So we will have some sort of integration with that also. A lot of openness in the learning opportunities for the student will happen. So that I see as another very interesting dimension. So, people will collaborate with, various other institutions and educational service providers, and their systems will be embedded in our own educational systems in the university or the college scenarios, and they will be inverted for ranking and all that. So I see a whole lot of possibility of the content developers, designers, who really can create this engaging learning methodologies and technology and contents for the people. So I see a huge possibility here. A lot of communication designers and technology designers really can focus in that. Then, government has been pushing it, but unfortunately, most of us never used to take it very seriously. But now we all know, we are surprised to know that government has done so much to support this online education and all that. For example, Swayam, e-Pathshala, YouTube channel and all that. So many things government is doing right now. So I think now government will also collaborate with a lot of private players to upscale the quality of these things, and a whole lot of designers can participate here also. Real estate is another very interesting sector where I see a role where designers and creative people can play. I think the way our living spaces we had been seeing so far, which were quite static in many ways, for last 10, 15 years, 20 years, we have not seen much of change in terms of the basic recipe. I think now the people would want to have a space in their home which can take care of work from home scenario. So that kind of possibility. A lot of materials that we use, which are going to be antifungal and anti-infection materials, building materials, they will start using. So a whole lot of technological development, technological based designers will start developing those materials, the surfaces, the coatings, which will be microbial in nature. We have seen some introduction of it in toilets and all that, but I think now most of the other surfaces which we see around us in our home and offices will also see a whole lot of application of it. Similarly, with the similar approach, creative people will see public spaces and all that, that how without making a physical contact, they can design an interface and a building or a space so that people really can move around in that space and be safe and all that. I see a whole lot of silver lining that we say generally in this the face of adversity. I think what is really important is that we all have to individually determine that whether we want to learn or whether we want to just kind of leave it to chance that, for example, I think some of the students who are on this particular webinar, I think they may be thinking that if IES University creates a platform, then only we'll learn. I don't think so. I think you should look at your own life and try to explore in consultation with your teachers that how more opportunities can be, you can leverage from to customize a understanding which is going to be better than anybody else. There is a small question section which I really thought I would want to share with all of you. And this is not a question for you. This is a question for all of us to answer. And I personally feel if we all start answering it for ourselves, then definitely I see that we will be able to make a difference in our life. So first is, how could my life change in the future? And everything is in the light of this post-COVID scenario. So how my life is going to change in the future with this? So that is one question that I feel we all should be answering. Whether I really want to learn something, whether I want to acquire a new skill, I want to teach somebody, I want to help my mother, I want to help my friend or anybody do their things a little more efficiently, or I will just be watching TV or enjoying and not learning anything. So I think this becomes one of my first questions. Second is, how could these changes be beneficial? Can I derive some benefit for the betterment of my future and career? So I think that is another area that I really want all of us to answer for ourselves. Third is, what opportunities this whole disruption has unleashed. So I think if we start putting a list together, putting an answer together behind these questions, below these questions, I personally feel there is going to be a whole lot of learning that we will make. We will see that a news which we read in a newspaper will start teaching us a lot how we can change our life and all that with that. How will I respond to these changes as they are giving birth to new paradigms and realities? So that is another way that we should be trying to seek answer. How will I take advantage? And what's the big picture? That is most important. What is the biggest scenario that we are having around us? What I'm not seeing about this change that could be advantageous in long run? So that is another question. Then looking at what exactly is happening, what has changed, what have I lost, what have I gained, how must I adapt, what must I potentially let go of in order to adapt. So if we just look at these string of questions together, and seek answers within ourselves with the help of faculties and other people, I'm sure there is going to be a whole lot of learning. What positive action could I take right now, and what can I learn from this experience? So I think that is something which is kind of takes care of my session. Only one thing, we should focus on learning as individuals and as organizations. The future is going to be resting, future will decide that who will be more successful, the people who could learn faster than the others, whether as individuals, whether as organizations. I think that is the most important thing that I see. This is the best time for all of us to learn, anticipate, and take action in that. I'm very happy to see that I think a private university like IES is so serious that on almost daily basis they're conducting these sessions. So I personally feel that you have already created a culture. You have sown very good seeds which you will reap very good fruits in the coming future and all that. Another thing, just remember that earlier in most of our teachings, we were generally being told to slice and dice and dissect a problem. कि हमको problem break करके we should see that that what are the opportunities and all that. But I think we have seen the negative side of it. Post-corona, it is not going to be slice and dice only, but I think we should always focus on the big picture also. What is the bigger scenario? What is the macro perspective? And how we can kind of leverage that also. Trust is important. We should build trust. So like IES is now doing this exercise, I'm sure you will have better trust with the students. I think compliment whole lot of people. I think that way I must appreciate our Prime Minister Saab. He has been doing a wonderful job that he has been formally announcing to compliment the people who are keeping us safe right now. So I think that is very important. And we should try to look at certain things which are going to be common and shared goals for extraordinary results. So be mindful while doing anything. And I think with this, I kind of rested from my side. And if there are any questions, we can see. I cannot see. Yeah. So if there are any questions, then I really am happy to answer them. Sir, I cannot hear you. Kishore sir, I think your mic is mute.
Professor, I would like to, first of all, thank you informally and formally both for an excellent and thought-provoking session. You have given excellent examples. The very thing first I liked was the terminology which you used for the domestic helps, moving gods, and so many examples you have given for us to really ponder upon. And I think, sir, you have been very right. In fact, yesterday only there was a news item where they were talking of a move-in concert. So where people were not able to, because of the social distancing and physical distancing, people went into their own vehicles and enjoyed the concert. So the entire philosophy of the malls, of the TV shows and cinemas is going to change.
Right, sir.
Hello.
Right. Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah, I can hear you, sir.
Yeah, I have only, sir, how quickly we can adapt to these changes. The premier institutes like National Institute of Design will lay the foundation stone for all these fast changes, because none of us really expected such type of situation. And every gadget we design, every item we design, probably we will have to think upon the these norms if they are at all required. There was another video which was going on viral, sir, in one of the Delhi NCR regions. The local e-rickshaw, he had converted into 4 cubicles to maintain the physical distancing norm.
Wonderful.
Such innovative ideas are already coming up.
Yes.
So I think many more, and NID will have a very, very important role to play to us. And sir, as we are also going to, we have been interacting with you, we will be looking for your support and blessings always, so that we can be able to contribute to the society in whatever humble way we can.
Definitely. Also, we will be more than happy to be associated, and wherever possible, we'll definitely be able to do that.
Arpan and all other participants who are on Zoom or even through Facebook chat, they can probably raise their queries to our honorable speaker, Professor Dhiraj Kumar. Anybody has any question? Arpan, are you able to hear us?
Dr. Arpan, I can see him.
Arpan, sir.
Hello.
Yeah, Arpan, you can unmute everyone, and if somebody wants to ask a question, he can definitely do so.
Okay, sir.
Just trying to see if there are any questions that I can answer. I think if there are any questions later also I can answer. I could not see immediately. So if there are
So nice of
anything,
you, sir.
then yeah. So I think this brings
Any of
us
the
to an end.
participants? Yeah. Arpan?
Uh, thank
Dr.
you very
Arpan?
much, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Once again, very good evening to all. It seems to be a great honor to propose the vote of thanks to all who paid their contribution in making this live webinar a very resounding success. First of all, I would like to give my hearty vote of thanks to our chief guest, Professor Dr. Dhiraj Kumar Ji, for gracing our today's webinar. Thank you, sir, for your very thought-provoking, interesting address and for making an excellent presentation and making this seminar a very meaningful and interesting. I would like to express our deep gratitude to Chancellor Sir and Pro-Chancellor Madam for their never-ending encouragement and guidance to organize such fruitful learning webinars. I would also thank our IES management team who made this webinar a grand success through their coordination and teamwork. Thanks to all who attended our live session on Facebook. Stay home, stay safe. Thank you all. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, sir.